Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Terrence and Jill.
Hello.
Yes, happy February 6th.
Yeah.
Just want to wish everybody a great day. You know, it's a week before Valentine's Day. I know everybody's jacked up. Everybody's excited. Everybody's looking forward. We got the butterflies of anticipation of what's going to happen next week.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's up.
Yep. So also this month is Heart Health Month, and so that's why we're wearing red again. Just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, guard your hearts. You know, it's emotional heaviness can wear heavy on the heart, and the Bible says that, when God gives you something good, he brings no sorrow with it. So if you're stressing over a relationship or a situationship, you may want to release that. All right. At least until God can do what he needs to do in it. So yeah.
Yes.
So what's the topic for today, baby?
The topic for today is a very powerful question. And it's something that a lot of people have probably been asking themselves. And really, I don't know if there's a one answer that's going to fit everybody's situation. But the question today and what this video is going to be based upon today is, does faith lead you to finding your true love?
Does it, baby?
Well, hopefully after this, we're going to all know. After this, we're going to all know. Because, I mean, honestly, we talk about our relationship, how we got started. And we started basically our journey, we telling everybody, it was a couple years back. But actually, what most people don't know, nobody knows, I don't believe, except for us two, is that, 25 years ago, Jill and I stayed, within minutes? I mean, within probably 30, 35, 40 minutes of each other. Easy.
Probably not even that. Yeah. We lived within minutes of each other.
In minutes. And then, for, just because of us praying and actually, still going through our individual journeys at that time, we were actually taken away from each other. And God worked what he had to work within each other individually. And here we are, 25 years later, we're doing videos.
Yeah. So how did that begin? Wow. Well, I don't know. So I guess the question out there about fate is, does it really lead you to love? And fate, I just believe it's a secular word, and a lot of people call it fate. A lot of people know it as coincidence or serendipity. But I think fate is the word that is most commonly used, because fate is the word that's coincidentally used as coincidence, because we don't, as humans, or some humans don't know what to call that opportunity when, I guess, stuff happens. Those of us who are Christian and who believe in God knows of the word as providence.
Yes.
Providence. Yes. It is actually called providence. And so providence is providence is God's orchestrating things to happen, your path to happen according to his will and according to how he does things. And so if you haven't listened to the Tony Evans, he has a whole series on providence. It's actually in the book of Esther. It's taken from the book of Esther. Esther is the only book in the Bible that does not mention the word God, but it mentions his demonstration of providence, which is how he demonstrated how he moves and how he orchestrated Esther's footsteps to marry the king so that the people can be free. Her people can be could be free. And so we're going to tell y'all how providence happened to us. We didn't even know each other. Nope. But here's how the story goes. So back in 1995, I was going through, I was in that stage. I was 25. I was in the stage of my life where I just felt like I needed to find myself. 25 years old. I had graduated from high school, and as a lot of people do, I felt like I was too smart for college. I guess that's the best way to say it, because I was working in the federal government in high school and ended up getting a federal government job outside of high school, like soon as I came out. So the opportunity was there to just go straight into the federal government. And I'm sorry, baby. And so in 1995, I decided I didn't want to. Well, it was a few years before then I decided I didn't want to, work for the government, and I just wanted to just go find myself. And I was just doing all kind of stuff. I went to hair school. I just was trying. I just could not find myself. And so, that particular year, also my grandmother passed suddenly of heart disease, and I just felt like I needed a change. And as God would have it, I got an opportunity for a job offer in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so I came down to Charlotte. I had been to Charlotte one time, and to a John P. Key concert. I knew nothing about Charlotte other than that when I did visit that one time, I did like the area. So I came down to Charlotte, and I think it was like in maybe May of 1995, and I got the job. I was the office manager for a small company who had an office. They had an office in Charlotte, but they were based out of Atlanta. But the office, we put computers and software into we had the contract with the Mecklenburg County school system. So it was a small office. It was about 10 of us, and I was the office manager. And I loved it. I fell in love with the area, and I was just in love with, I was just like, yes, I found myself. It was something about this area that it was just electrifying. And a couple of months into the job, there was a robbery, and we came to work one morning, and somebody had come in and robbed us of all our computers. Everything that could plug up, they stole. And I was like devastated. We were all devastated. And the owner of the company said that they were closing down the Charlotte office and offered us to move to Atlanta to come to work out their office in Atlanta. I was at a crossroads because I did not know anything about Atlanta. I felt like I was already 7 hours away from my family. I felt like I was going even further, and I was like, no, I'll just go back home. And I'll never forget, in November of 1995, which is pivotal for you, but in November of 1995, right before, I actually had gone home for Thanksgiving, and the plan was to go home for Thanksgiving and come back to Charlotte to pack up my things and move back home. And I went home for Thanksgiving and came back, and I was so distraught. I was so depressed. As a matter of fact, I was so depressed, I got sick. I packed up my stuff. My family came down to get me, and they drove me back home. I had brought all this beautiful stuff from my apartment, and they drove me back. I felt like I was leaving my heart in Charlotte. It was the craziest thing. And those of you who know me know what happened, And I came back to Maryland. I went back to Maryland, and it was right before Christmas. And I went into this huge depression. I mean, it was weeks. And thank God for the blizzard of 96, because when we crossed over to the new year, that January, we went into the blizzard of 96 and everything was shut down, which worked into my feelings. But that spring, I got a job in Maryland. I didn't really want to do the job, but I got a job, and I met this guy. And this guy, he had an interest in me. He was not really my type. He wasn't my type at all. I was used to church guys, but this was a educated guy. He worked at the job, very educated, college educated guy, very smart. And I never forget, he told me, he said, you know what? He said, you're too smart. He said, why didn't you go to college? And I was like, because I went in the federal government and I could do this and I could do that and I don't need college. He said, no, you're too smart not to go to college. You need to go to college. And he took me, and I applied to Bowie State University. I got into Bowie, and I ended up getting my bachelor's degree, of course, and then I went on and got my master's right after that. After that, I got back into the federal government. I went and got my real estate license in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. I bought my home. I bought my dream car. Everything was going well. And then in 2014, 20 years later, 2014, 2015, I hit another crossroads. And I was my business, I had started my business full time. I hit another crossroads, and I felt like I didn't know what I was like. I didn't know what I was, supposed to do. I started the business and leaped out on faith, and I got a phone call, and it was from a woman who had gone to grad school with me. She and I had kind of a brief friendship. It didn't end like it should have. It ended very ugly. So I was very surprised to hear from her. But she called me and said that she was moving back to North Carolina. That's where she was originally from. And she was going to be taking a job. And she said, the only way I'll take the job, she told them, the only way I'll take the job is if I bring someone who knows nonprofits and PR to come in and help me clean up the nonprofit. And so she called me and asked me if I was interested. And I would start to say, I don't want to be bothered with you, but my best friend actually said, go ahead and go for it. So I came down to Raleigh, and I took the consulting contract. We went into a contract, and the contract lasted for a couple of months, and then it ended, and I almost started to go back, but I didn't. I didn't go back to Maryland. I stayed in North Carolina, and I said, I'm going to make this work in North Carolina. I had no idea about you. I had no idea any of this, but this is how it's funny, because my cousin, after I had saw you, and I was in that season, you was in your sleeping season, and I was in the season of my pruning season. I felt like it was something going on between, that God was trying to show me something about you, but I didn't quite know what it was. Again, I was trying to think of everything to say that it wasn't you. Anyway, my cousin had an event in Charlotte, and I said, you know what, I'll go down with you to your event. And I said, I'll help you out. So I drove down here to Charlotte, and I was driving, and I hadn't been to Charlotte. So I really didn't, thinking about Charlotte was a sore spot for me, because I felt like it was a failure that I was there in 20 years prior, and it didn't work. And I was so heartbroken that I just felt like it was a sore spot for me. But anyway, I decided to go and help my cousin out with her event. And when I was driving, I think 485?
Yes.
I was on 485, and the first word that I saw was Providence. So it's a street called Providence. Yeah, I saw the word Providence, and I had been studying Providence from Tony Evans. And I was like, okay, Lord, you speaking? Let me open up my ears. Then the next road I saw was the name of the city that I used to live in Charlotte. Then the next exit was the city you had on your profile that you lived. And I was like, Lord, are you really like talking? Like, are you really speaking to me? And by the time I got to the location where my cousin was having her event, I was in full-blown tears. And so I was kind of forced to tell her what was going on. And even she's now surprised that all of this happened, because she was one of the few that I told about this guy that I felt like this connection. And so of course, now talking, over the, last couple of years, you and I have been, talking. Like, one of the things we learned, it was that we lived like, really, I lived on a road that run through your city. Mm-hmm. Like, that we could have really, like, God really had our paths crossed. So when the year that I was leaving Charlotte, November of 1995, what was happening with you?
That 1995 November 1995, to be more specific, was a very memorable month for me and year. And that's because, the people that know me know I have twins. And my twins were born in 1995.
Wow, November
In
of
November.
1995.
So that's when my twins was born, the 15th of November. And so that started a journey for me that helped get me to where I am today.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he needed to really. So the pruning process didn't even start recently. It started we're always in a process.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then you moved away a couple of times.
Yes, I moved away a couple of times. But before I even share that, I want to definitely, point out that the one thing about what she just shared, and then finding out that my twins were born that same month on the 15th when she was going back to Maryland, is to let you know that when God is working with you, he's going to be also working with everybody else. So the craziest thing is, and I mean, just looking back on this, is just how powerful it is that every one of us has our own individual journey.
Yeah.
And you don't know where in your life he's going to start connecting the dots of you and that individual that you're going to be spending the rest of your life with.
Right.
So it's just powerful that, like you said, she was getting ready to transition back home. My kids were being born that month. So it's...
Yeah, because you were married.
I was married then.
When you were married
so it's powerful how when you think back and start connecting the dots where everything began. And I mean, it's a very powerful, it's a very humbling, humbling experience to know that, we're just a small drop in the bucket with everything that's going on. And it's just, and so that journey, this journey has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
It's not over yet.
Yeah.
He's still orchestrating things right now. And the great thing about it is now we're together and we are able to just discover these things as we're going.
These coincidences.
We're discovering them together now as we're going. So, yes.
Yeah, so there are 5 things that I noticed that on that journey that happened that was eye-opening. One of the things that I want to say is that we talked about this a couple of days ago, I think, is that for a lot of us, we already have that narrative in our head.
Yes.
That narrative of how we think things should go. If I would have known him in 1995, because I've seen the pictures. If I would have known him, and he was married then. Seriously handsome. If I would have known him in 1995, I mean, we didn't know. We didn't know. That's the great thing, is that we could not have written this narrative or even put it in our head. Like, we only could now look back to say, okay, well, this is how it went. But that would be the first thing, is that I never put a narrative of how a love story story should go. I never said how my love story should go. So that's the first thing that I just said, no, I'm not going to, however God want to do it, because I was at the point where maybe God ain't doing it. The second thing I know one of the second lessons I learned was that God can use anybody. And so there were a couple of people that God used for their journey from Charlotte in 1995, and then now back to Charlotte, because this is where we're living. But that first person was the guy that when I went back home, we only had a season together. He was in my life for a season or a reason, and that was to help me to get to my destination of going to school. That was it. He and I never knew what happened to him after that, and never had an interest to know what happened. We dated briefly, and that was his purpose in my life. There was a reason. He was in my life. So that was the second thing, is that you don't ever dismiss people, because you never know what part God has them to play in your life
Right.
to get to your next
Absolutely.
destination. The third lesson that I learned was forgiveness. Forgiveness. I could have held a grudge against that woman who, because I felt like she had did some negative things to me, and I shouldn't have taken her call or even listened to her as far as her whatever she needed for me to get back to, her, to help her in North Carolina. But had I not forgiven, I who knows, I may, maybe I wouldn't have come back to North Carolina. But she played a catalyst, and I have to thank her for it. She played a catalyst in getting me back to North Carolina. So forgiveness is key. You never know who God's going to use, and you holding people hostage, and they could be used to get you to your next point. The fourth thing is that hold on to nothing. That was the other lesson. Hold on to nothing. I remember in 2014, I said, Lord, I ain't holding. I owned my own home in Maryland. I was like, I ain't holding on to this thing. Like nothing is holding me back. Even if I had children, I would have packed up my kids and came to North Carolina if I had to. Like nothing holds me. Even I live in Raleigh, and even moving here, like nothing is holding me in Raleigh. Like nothing is holding me to get to where the next place God wants me to be. And so I hold on to nothing. Nothing has a hold on me where I can't, move according to, God's plan for my life. And then the fifth thing that the lesson I've learned in all of this is you got to take a leap of faith.
Yes.
You got to take a leap of faith. Like you just, I always say love is one of the big other behind salvation is one of the most important faith moves you can make. And if there's no way you can please God if you do not make a faith move. And if you want the pleasures of God, you've got to be willing to jump out on faith. So
Yes.
So providence is huge. Providence is huge. It is ordering your steps every single minute, day, hour. And so you don't have to put the narrative, your love story in your mind of how you think it should go. You just need to just move accordingly.
Yes. And I would say this too is, you guys are listening to the videos of us telling about how we met, our journeys and so forth. But understand this, not only are we not saying everybody's story is going to run the same way ours did, we're also saying that Jill and I figured this out as we reflected. After all of the stuff happened.
Hindsight.
When we were going through it, we had no idea
this is how
this is
going to be the outcome.
Yeah.
Right.
This is just a result. We're sharing this as a result of us reflecting about our journey and where it started, how far back it was, and what we were individually going through. We've had these types of conversations all the time, and that's how we're figuring these things out. We didn't figure it out as we went.
Yeah, we ain't say this is how it's going to be. It's going to be, and this is how I want it to be, and I want this to be like this, and I'm going to move here, and he's going to move here, and I'm going to make this happen, and he's going.
Yeah, we just want y'all to know we wasn't going through writing and saying, okay, well, I'm supposed to take this step here.
I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah, we learned that after the fact. So if you're going through anything right now and you're wondering what the answers are,
just live.
Just live. Take that next step of faith.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing you have control over. Is just taking that next step of faith.
Yep, that's it.
You'll figure it out later when you looking back and be like, wow, I'm glad I did this.
I'm glad I forgave him or her. Because him or her helped me to, I'm glad I attended that wedding. I'm glad I went to that event. Because had I not go to that birthday party to celebrate, Jackie, I wouldn't have met, my husband. So just allow life to move you.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's providence.
That's providence.
That's providence. So no, it's not fate. Fate is saying you don't know where this power is attributed to. Providence says God's demonstration of how he works. All right.
Absolutely.
So thank you, baby.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm loving it here in Charlotte. Let's go explore the city.
Yeah. So we thank you guys for checking out our videos. please definitely click that you like it.
Yes,
share it.
Yes, subscribe. Yes,
Absolutely.
please. We're trying to get the message out. And the whole message is basically trust God, right?
Trust God.
Trust God.
And just know that next weekend is Valentine's Day.
I don't know what he got planned, but he keep telling me it's going to be a surprise.
It's going to be a good one.
Oh, Lord. I ain't never asked for no romantic man. I ain't never, but thank God I got one. So, but yep. So thank y'all. It's 25 minutes in. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So y'all have a blessed Saturday.
Deuces.
Deuces. All righty.